My name's Brooke, and at 32, I've spent the last 10 years climbing the career ladder as a manager over at Taylor and Company, while my younger sisters, Lily and Megan, were busy settling down and starting their families. Meanwhile, I was chasing promotions and corner offices. Now, don't get me wrong, I really do love my job, but sometimes, late at night, I catch myself wondering if maybe I missed out on something along the way. No husband, no kids, just me and a window view of the city skyline from my office. It was just another ordinary Tuesday morning when my phone lit up with Lily's name. I answered while flipping through a messy stack of reports on my desk. "Hey, Brookie." Lily's bright voice came through the speaker. AT26, my youngest sister, had always been the cheerful, bubbly one. "Got a sec?" "Sure. What's going on?" I said, pushing some papers aside, half distracted by the quarterly numbers I was trying to review. "So, Mom's turning 60 in a couple of months, right?" she said, pausing dramatically. "Well, we're putting something special together, and we kinda need everyone to chip in." That made me put my pen down. "Okay, how much are we talking about?" I asked. When Lily threw out the number, I almost spit out my coffee. It was more than I'd spent on my last vacation, which, now that I thought about it, was 3 years ago. "I know it's a lot," Lily added quickly, "but it's for Mom, you know?" "No, it's fine," I said, already pulling up my banking app. "I'll send it over right now." "Awesome." "Oh, and one more thing," she said, like it was just a tiny afterthought. "Clear a week off your schedule for the celebration, okay? No other plans during that time." The next few weeks pretty much disappeared into a blur of back-to-back meetings and looming deadlines. Every once in a while, I'd wonder what exactly my sisters were plotting with all that money, but whenever I brought it up, they just gave me these vague, brush-off answers. Eventually, work swallowed up my attention, and Mom's birthday plans kind of drifted to the back of my mind. Then came that Saturday night dinner. We all crammed into my parents' house. Mom, Dad, my sisters, Aunt Karen, her kids, and my cousins Ethan and Samantha. The usual chaos. Dad cracking his same old jokes. Mom hovering over everyone, making sure their plates were overflowing. The normal family noise. That's when Lily dropped the bomb. She was casually pushing peas around her plate when she said, "So, we finally locked down the plans for Mom's birthday. We're all heading to Cedar Ridge Resort for a full week." The table instantly erupted into excited chatter. Mom was practically glowing. Dad was already rambling about hitting the ski slopes, and my sisters were giggling about which runs they wanted to try first. I blinked. "Wait, why am I just hearing about this now?" I asked, feeling like I'd somehow missed a major memo. I don't even have a ski jacket, and now there's barely any time to find one. Suddenly, the table went awkwardly silent. Too silent. Mom cleared her throat, and my stomach twisted into a knot. I knew that toned. It was her. "I'm about to ask for a huge favor you can't say no to" voice. "Well, sweetheart," she began, giving me a warm but slightly guilty smile, "we were actually hoping you could do us all a really big favor and watch the kids while we're there." I just stared at them, waiting for someone to crack a smile, tell me they were joking, but nobody did. The only sounds were forks lightly clinking against plates. You want me to babysit?" I finally managed to say, "All 5 of them?" In my head, I was already counting. Megan's toddler, Ben, Lily's baby girl, Elliot, Ethan's twins, Sam and Addie, and Samantha's little boy, Charlie. 5 kids, all under the age of 7. "Well, you're just so wonderful with them." Mom said like that explained everything. "They adore their Aunt Brooke." I looked around the table again, desperate to find some sign that this was a prank. There was nothing, just a sea of expectant faces, waiting for me to do what I always did, say yes. But instead, what came out of my mouth surprised even me. "That's not fair," I said, my voice sounding strange and wobbly. "I want to celebrate too. It's Mom's birthday, and I want to be part of it." Megan, my 28-year-old middle sister, sighed and set down her fork. "Oh, come on, Brooke," she said. "You'll be bored anyway. It's gonna be loud and crowded." "Bored?" I repeated, blinking at her. "How would you even know if I'd be bored?" Lily kept sneaking glances at Megan as she went on. You're amazing with the kids. They absolutely love you. And let's be honest, it's not like you need a break from family life or anything. I felt my chest tighten, that familiar sting starting to build. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Before Lily could answer, Megan jumped in, her voice carrying that smug, patronizing edge she had perfected over the years. She just means, Megan said sweetly, you don't have a husband or little ones you need to get away from like the rest of us do. We really need this time off, Brooke. You get that, right? The green beans on my plate blurred as I blinked rapidly, fighting back the sudden sting of tears. And no way was I going to let them see me cry. Instead, I quietly pushed my chair back and stood up. Brooke, Mom's voice followed me, tinged with concern, but not enough to actually get up and stop me. Without saying a word, I grabbed my purse from the kitchen counter and headed straight for the door. And oh, one move no one called after me. The only thing I heard was Mom's voice floating out from the dining room. Don't worry. She'll be a little upset at first, but she'll come around. She always does. As I walked across the front yard to my car, their voices slowly faded, already moving on, chattering about ski slopes and winter jackets like nothing had happened. The evening air hit my face, sharp and cold, helping to clear some of the fog in my head. 10 years of putting everyone else's needs ahead of my own, always being the dependable one, the one they could count on, and this was how they treated me. The worst part wasn't even that they'd asked me to babysit during what was supposed to be a family vacation. It was how easily they assumed I would just say yes, how they planned everything, using my money, my vacation days, my time, without even asking if I was okay with it. As if I wasn't a real member of the family, just a convenient backup plan. I spent half the night pacing my tiny apartment, replaying every family dinner, every Christmas, every moment when I dropped everything because they needed me. The memories came rushing back, one after another, each one taking on a darker, sharper edge now. There I was at 16, cooking dinner while Mom sat at the table helping Megan finish her science project. There I was at 18, turning down a spring break trip with my college friends because Lily needed a babysitter so Mom and Dad could sneak away for a weekend. At 21, working 2 part-time jobs while juggling college classes, just so I could help pay for Megan's prom dress without her even knowing. Year after year, sacrifice after sacrifice. Brooke, can you watch Ben for a few hours? Megan's voice echoed in my mind, sounding way too familiar. I really need a break, Brooke. Could you take the twins for the weekend? Ethan's voice chimed in like a broken record. Rachel's drowning with Charlie, and you're just so good with the little ones. And I had always said yes. Every single time, even when I had big meetings the next morning. Even when I was dead on my feet after a brutal work week. I took pride in being the dependable one, the steady sister, the daughter who never let anyone down. Finally, I collapsed onto my couch, the leather cold against my skin. My eyes landed on the photo album sitting neatly on the coffee table. Family vacations where I was always the one behind the camera. Holiday parties where I spent more time in the kitchen than in the living room laughing with everyone else. When was the last time anyone even asked me what I wanted? Sarah's words, "It's not like you need a break from family life," kept echoing in my head, louder and harsher with every replayed as if because I didn't have a husband or kids, my life somehow didn't matter, as if all the sacrifices I had made over the years didn't count for anything, because I didn't fit their idea of what really mattered. It was like none of my sacrifices meant anything at all. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I tossed and turned for hours, stuck replaying everything in my head. I thought about how I worked my way through college on a scholarship because I didn't want to add any financial burden onto Mom and Dad. How I jumped straight into my career after graduation, sending money home to help both Lily and Megan get through school. How I spent all those late nights at the office, climbing the corporate ladder, carving out a future, and still managed to pitch in for family expenses whenever they needed it. By the time morning rolled around, I had made up my mind. I wasn't someone who liked confrontation, never had been. There had to be a way to sort this out without blowing up the family. So I did what I always did when things got messy. I tried to fix it. I waited until a decent hour Sunday morning before picking up my phone and calling Mom. She picked up after the third ring. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice even and calm. "I've been thinking about the trip to the resort. Actually, I think I found a solution." I took a breath. "I'll cover the cost of a professional babysitter for all 5 kids. That way, everyone can celebrate together, and I can actually be part of it too." There was a pause on the other end, longer than I expected. Finally, Mom spoke, her voice stiff. "That won't work, Brooke. We can't trust some stranger to look after the kids. They're comfortable with you." "Mom, I want to be there for your birthday too," I said, trying to reason with her. "I can find someone really good, someone with great references, someone who knows what they're doing." But before I could finish, she cut me off, her voice sharp and dismissive. "You're not exactly a social butterfly, Brooke. All that noise and chaos would just make you uncomfortable anyway. Watching the kids will keep you busy, and you love being with them. It's the perfect setup for everyone." And just like that, the call ended. She didn't even say goodbye. I sat there, the phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the screen, stunned. Why Mother hadn't even given me a chance to respond. While I was still processing everything, the phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lily. Before I could even say hello, her voice came through like a hiss. "How dare you?" she snapped. "Mom just told me about your little idea to hire a babysitter. Are you seriously trying to ruin everything?" I sat up straighter, caught off guard by the anger in her voice. "Ruin everything?" I repeated. "I'm just trying to find a way for everyone to enjoy the trip, including me." "We already have a plan," Lily shot back, her voice getting louder. "Everything's booked, everything's scheduled, and now you're being completely selfish, trying to mess it all up last minute." The accusation hit like a slap. "I'm selfish," I said, my voice shaking. "Yes, you are," she shouted. "We've been working on this for weeks. Everyone's excited. And now you're throwing a wrench in it because you can't just do this one thing for the family." My hands were trembling as I gripped the phone. "One thing," I whispered. "You're seriously calling this one thing?" "You know what?" she said, her voice icy. "If you ruin this trip and spoil Mom's birthday, don't bother talking to me again." "I mean it, Brooke." Then the line went dead. I sat there, stunned by the threat from my youngest sister. A second later, my phone buzzed again, this time with a series of texts from Megan. "Family sticks together," the first one read. "We all pitch in and help when someone needs it." Another popped up right after. "Remember when I watered your plants last year while you were at that conference?" And then another. "You're great with the kids. They love you. Why can't you stop being bitter and just think about what's best for the family?" I stared at the messages, anger and sadness boiling under my skin. Without even thinking, my fingers flew across the keyboard. "A real family doesn't use each other," I typed back. "A real family respects each other's wishes and includes everyone, not just expects them to fall in line. A real family doesn't guilt trip and manipulate." I watched the 3 little dots appear and disappear and reappear, but no reply ever came, and that's when it really hit me. The way they'd asked for money without really telling me what it was for. The way they'd carefully told me to take time off without actually mentioning the resort. The way they dropped the news at dinner like it was already a done deal. They hadn't just sprung this on me, they'd planned it all along, while I was working late nights, while I was babysitting their kids, while I was being the reliable daughter, the dependable sister. They'd been scheming this trip behind my back, using my money, rearranging my schedule, and deciding for me that I would spend my vacation corralling 5 little kids without ever bothering to ask. And now that I wasn't playing along, they were pulling out every trick in the book: guilt trips, threats, emotional blackmail, trying to shove me back into the little box they'd built for me. Something funny happens once you finally see it. Once the fog clears, everything snaps into focus. And you realize just how much lighter you feel when you finally stop carrying a weight that was never yours in the first place. That night, for the first time in a long time, I felt free. The guilt I'd been dragging around for years slipped right off my shoulders, and what took its place was something stronger: determination. I opened my laptop and started searching. Within an hour, I had booked myself a room at a beachfront hotel in Florida. Nothing crazy fancy, but it had a private balcony with a killer view of the ocean and was within walking distance of everything I'd need. I even treated myself to a first-class plane ticket because, honestly, I could afford it. Especially now that I wasn't about to blow a week's vacation wiping noses and tying shoelaces. The next few days at work felt peaceful in a way I hadn't expected. My family went completely silent, no calls, no texts. I figured they thought I was home gearing up for a week of babysitting, maybe stocking up on snacks and crayons. The idea made me chuckle as I tossed my new swimsuit into my suitcase. A tropical getaway in the middle of January? My coworker Janet teased when she spotted me checking the weather in Florida. "Sometimes you gotta do something unexpected," I said, smiling bigger than I had in years, and it felt good, like I was waking up from a very long nap. The morning of my flight, I gave my apartment one last once-over. Old habits die hard. Everything was cleaned, the fridge emptied, the windows locked tight, everything in perfect order, just like always, except this time, I wasn't going to be around to pick up emergency babysitting shifts. When the plane took off, I powered down my phone and tucked it deep into my bag. No calls, no texts, no guilt. Just me, the beach, and an entire week of freedom. The Florida air wrapped around me the moment I stepped outside the airport, warm, salty, and full of possibilities. Palm trees waved lazily in the breeze, and I could already hear the ocean calling from somewhere nearby. My hotel was even better than the pictures had shown. From my balcony, I had a clear view of the endless blue stretching out in front of me, the waves breaking in a steady, calming rhythm. That first afternoon, I kicked off my sandals and walked barefoot across the beach, the sand hot and soft between my toes. When was the last time I'd done something like this? When was the last time I'd done anything just for myself? I swam in the hotel pool without anyone splashing me or begging for snacks. I read an entire book, cover to cover, without once getting interrupted. I had dinner at a little beachside restaurant where I could actually finish my meal without having to cut anyone else's food into tiny bites. That night, I sat out on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the sun sink into the ocean, and for the first time in a long time, there was no to-do list running through my head. No bedtime routines. No morning alarms. Just peace. On my last morning in Florida, I lingered over my coffee, savoring those final quiet moments. I knew I'd have to turn my phone back on eventually. I just wasn't prepared for what was waiting for me. The moment my phone powered up, it went berserk, buzzing and beeping nonstop. Texts, voicemails, missed calls, hundreds of them, all lined up like little soldiers. The timestamps told the story. They'd started exactly a week ago, first thing that morning. My hands shook a little as I started scrolling. The first ones were from Lily. "Where are you?" "We're outside your house." Then Megan. "Brooke, open the door. The kids are getting restless." As I read through the messages, I could picture it all so clearly. My sisters and cousins standing outside my house, 5 confused kids in tow, their suitcases packed for the resort. Their perfectly planned trip was falling apart around them. The tone of the texts shifted from confusion to panic. "Ashley, this isn't funny. Where are you? Pick up your phone. What are we supposed to do with the kids? You can't just disappear like this." And then came the anger. Sarah's messages turned downright nasty. "You selfish witch. How could you do this to us? Emma wasn't much better. I can't believe you're this immature. Mom's birthday is ruined because of you." Even Aunt Susan, who'd always been calm, had sent me messages that shocked me. "You ungrateful little. You've ruined everything. These kids were counting on you." Mom's messages started to trickle in later in the day. I could almost feel the disappointment in her words. "I'm so disappointed, Ashley. I never thought you'd be this selfish after everything we've done for you." And Dad, who rarely ever sent texts, had sent just one. "Your mother is crying. I hope you're happy with yourself." The voicemails were worse. I could hear the anger, the disappointment, the accusations in their voices. Relatives I hadn't heard from in months suddenly started flooding my inbox with their judgment. "You've always been so reliable. How could you do this to your own family? Those poor kids. You've ruined everything." I sat there in my peaceful hotel room, reading message after message, realizing exactly how my family saw me, how they saw me when I stopped being their convenient solution. The words they used, the names they called me, and the assumptions they made about my character. It felt like I was meeting an entirely new family, one that had been hiding behind fake smiles and casual requests for favors. I didn't respond to a single one. Instead, I packed my bags and headed for the airport. It was time to go home. But I wasn't the same Ashley who had left a week ago. That version of me might have apologized, might have felt guilty, might have tried to make things right. But that Ashley? She was gone. By the time I finished unpacking my beach clothes and started to relax, I heard it, the pounding on my front door. I barely reached the door before I heard the key turning in the lock, the emergency key I'd given Mom years ago for situations like this. And then they burst in. Mom leading the charge, with Emma and Sarah flanking her, both red-faced and wild-eyed. The calm I'd found in Florida evaporated instantly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Sarah screamed, stepping forward. "You ruined everything. Everything." I stood my ground, watching them unleash their fury in my living room, the same one where I'd babysat their kids countless times, where I'd canceled my plans to help with their emergencies, where I'd always been the reliable one. Mike and John, Emma's and Sarah's husbands, had suddenly had important business to take care of, so Sarah had been left to stay home with all 5 kids while everyone else went to the resort. "Missed Mom's birthday because of you. The whole trip was ruined." Mom's voice rose, her frustration bubbling over. "Nobody could enjoy themselves. All we did was talk about how you betrayed us, how you let everyone down. Your father couldn't even ski properly. He was so upset." They continued their tirade, talking over each other, each one trying to outdo the others in expressing their disappointment and anger. The more they went on, the more ridiculous it seemed. And then, something inside me finally snapped, but not in the way they expected. I started laughing. The sound of my laughter sliced through their accusations like a knife. They stopped mid-sentence, staring at me as if I'd completely lost my mind. "What's so funny?" Mom demanded, her face flushing darker with anger. What could possibly be funny about the situation? I wiped tears of laughter from my eyes, trying to catch my breath. "Don't you see how ridiculous this is? Do you really not understand how absurd you all sound right now?" "Absurd?" Emma sputtered. "What's absurd about it?" "You secretly planned this entire trip," I said, my laughter fading but my voice steady. "You decided without asking me that I would watch your children. You took my money, told me to take time off work, and then just assumed I would fall in line with your plans. And now, because everything fell apart because of your assumptions, you're here calling me the villain." "But you've always helped before," Mom said, her voice smaller now, confused. "And that's exactly the problem," I cut in. "Because I always helped, you started taking advantage of me. You stopped seeing me as a daughter or a sister and started seeing me as free childcare. You stopped considering my feelings, my plans, my life." "That's not true," Sarah protested, but her voice lacked conviction. "Really?" I raised an eyebrow. "Then why didn't you include me in the planning? Why didn't you ask me if I wanted to go to the resort? Why did you just assume I'd be happy to stay behind with 5 children while everyone else celebrated?" I watched their faces, hoping to see some recognition, some understanding of how they'd treated me. But instead, their expressions hardened. "You're being selfish," Mom said, her voice cold. "You've ruined my birthday. You've hurt your sisters. You've disappointed the children. This isn't how I raised you." That was it. The last thread of hope snapped. "I felt it, just like that." "No, Mom," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You're the ones being selfish. This whole situation is your fault, not mine." Mom straightened up to her full height, her face like stone. "If that's how you feel, then perhaps I don't have a daughter named Ashley anymore. If that's what you want, Mom, I said quietly, then so be it. It's been 6 weeks since that final confrontation in my living room. 6 weeks of silence, broken only by the occasional notification when one of my family members sends another message or makes a call. I noticed a string of posts on social media lately. Mom shared one last week, something about how some people only think about themselves. She followed it with a dozen comments from relatives and family friends, all nodding along to her version of the story. Then there was Sarah, posting yesterday with a picture of her daughter, so blessed to have people in my life who understand what family really means. And Emma's latest? A long paragraph about toxic people who destroy family bonds with their selfishness. She didn't tag me, of course, but it wasn't hard to guess who she meant. A few months ago, these posts would have torn me apart. I would have spent hours crafting responses in my head, lying awake at night, wondering if maybe they were right. But now I just scroll past them. Sometimes I even smile a little at how predictable they've become. I've changed my routine. Instead of sitting by the phone on weekends, waiting for another emergency babysitting request, I joined a local book club. The first meeting felt weird, sitting in a coffee shop on a Saturday morning, knowing my phone wouldn't ring with a frantic request from one of my sisters. Last week, I booked a trip to Europe in the spring. No need to check with anyone's schedule, no worrying about conflicting needs. I saw a good deal and took it. I still think about my nieces and nephews sometimes. I miss them, but not in the way I used to. Not like they were a tool to be used against me. I hope that one day, when they're older, they'll understand. Maybe they'll even see the same patterns in their own lives and choose to do things differently. I still have the emergency key Mom used that last day. I should probably mail it back, but something always stops me. Maybe part of me hopes they'll realize someday, realize how unfair they were, how they took advantage of my love for them. Maybe they'll understand that family doesn't mean losing yourself to meet everyone else's needs. But I'm not waiting around for that anymore. I'm not putting my life on hold for their approval or understanding. For the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first, and it feels right. Yesterday, I quietly deleted the family group chat from my phone. No announcement, no big explanation. I just removed myself from one more obligation, one more source of stress. Some might call it selfish. My family certainly does. But I've learned there's a difference between being selfish and having self-respect. Sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who can't see your worth beyond what you can do for them.